I tend to start with a tiny, small, like piece of an idea that my brain immediately turns into like an entire world. Like I do this world building to my own dismay.
Today on the show, we are joined with film and music video director Ashlea Wessel. This past week, Ashley had two of her films featured in the Blood and the Snow Film Festival and around, hearing all the details on that. We get a look into her history of filmmaking, world building, being the queen of horror shorts, and some in-depth insight for anybody aspiring to be a filmmaker. Ashley is full of knowledge, experience, and all around with her films and music videos just makes cool shit. So yeah, we're gonna jump right into this as we ask her what came first, her love for film or her love for horror.
I think my love for film came first, but it's hard to say because I don't think I was one of those people that didn't know they loved horror until you look back at all the stuff that you watch as a kid where you were like, oh, those are like creepy as fuck. Like, my favorite stuff was like The Last Unicorn and Secret of Nim and anything that was like creepy or skeletons or something died. This is the devil on fire. Like all that crazy imagery. I was like, I just
Mhm.
loved that stuff. And then I think later in my high school years, I was like, oh, I thought I didn't like horror prior to that. And I was like, oh no, I actually love it. I just thought everything was, slasher and gore and, that kind of stuff, which is, I mean, I think once I realized that I did love the genre, I came to understand what all that stuff was about. And now I do love slashers. Like,
Yeah.
I just had to learn that it wasn't just, lowest common denominator kind of stuff like, your parents always think it is, and, the devil's movies.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think it's like a weird confluence of everything kind of coming together and I think I always wanted to make films, didn't know I was allowed to as a little girl because
Yeah.
everybody looked like Steven Spielberg and, old white guy in a hat. Um, yeah, and my aesthetic, I think, just came. I was like, everything I wrote or everything I wanted to do was just creepy and, bloody or, some different version of that. And there's so much opportunity to make crazy shit as a horror filmmaker. Sorry, am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, you can say whatever the fuck you want on here.
Yeah.
This is a loose
Um,
thing. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just so much opportunity to like exercise your imagination and play visually that I mean horror just like is the way to go for me, I think, in so many ways. That was
Yeah.
a really long answer.
No, this is all cool. Like it's even I loved how you kind of like reference some things like The Last Unicorn, Secret of Nim. I'm from that same generation as well, and it's almost like unconsciously we were always exposed to horror, whether we like it or not. Like just yesterday, I saw on my feed like something like come up of like old nostalgia toys, and it's all like ooze coming out of like people's eyeballs, like the YTV
Totally.
era in Canada, and just like everything was had like this creepiness to it too. So it's like almost embedded in our generation of that's what entertainment is, whether you know it's horror or not.
Yeah, it's so wild to like I always think about how the way things like that would play nowadays. I'm like, remember like it's like in The Last Unicorn, it's literally like a carnival freak show of abused animals and like the bull is the devil and it's on fire and it's gonna kill everyone and there's a drunk skeleton and you're like, this is very adult. Like,
Yeah, some
you're just like, whoa.
yeah, even like just the other week some guy who I work with was telling me about that one director. I forget his name but he made like All Dogs Go to Heaven, and apparently like he was like part of Disney, and then he was like a little too dark, so they kicked him
Yep.
out. So he had the same style of animation, but then you watch those movies as a kid, and then the dog's in like hell and shit like that. And I'm like
Yeah.
watching this when I'm like 5, and I'm like, oh yeah, this guy's like just going for it, Like
I definitely rented All Dogs Go to Heaven for one of my birthday parties as a child, and that party ended in tears. Let me tell you.
Yeah, yeah. Not much of a celebration after watching that flick.
No.
Yeah. One thing I admire about your style in filmmaking too, especially like with your shorts, even specifically going back and watching Tick is even when you have certain limitations, whether it's like a budget or whatever, or even a short amount of time, you're able to build a bigger world, and you kind of have a great mind to know how to do that. Like tell a bigger story of like almost like a universe with little scenes of the way you shoot it and the way like the characters move around too. And I kind of just want to know like a bit of your philosophy going towards that. Do you always have like these really big ideas and then you're like, okay, how can we do this on like I guess a budget level or whatever?
Yes, my ideas are always so much bigger. I tend to start with a tiny, small, like piece of an idea that my brain immediately turns into like an entire world. Like I do this world building to my own dismay, because it does get really, really big in the development stage, and then I have to like remember to stick it into this little pocket. And I think because of having worked primarily in shorts so far, uh, it's all about giving a taste of that world, and I think that's what a lot of shorts do, whether it's like a drama or whatever. You have a moment. Like, I think a lot of horror shorts tend to like to do, okay, here's a gag that's like, going to show you what this film will eventually be, which tends to be a lot of like, Atomic Monster kind of movies and stuff like that come out of those, which like work so well. And it feeds the audience and what they're looking for in terms of like scares and creepy monsters and stuff like that. But my brain tends to go to what's this world that we can tell like a human story within, and what's an interesting, like, who is this character and why is this specific horror something that speaks so much to their character development, and how are they either the villain or the hero, and what does that say, what is that, how do I tell the story, or how do I express this idea through them, I think. And then I'm like, okay, I have 11 minutes, let's go.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, oh shit, we're gonna have to cram this
Yeah,
down or whatever.
I think about it a lot. I'm really into details, and I think that is both a deficit as a filmmaker, and can sometimes be a plus.
Yeah, I think it's a really big gift, even though sometimes maybe you're like, oh, I only have 15 minutes and fuck,
Yeah,
like, but I feel like even like making like these pieces or whatever, you never know one day, like it could turn into a series. Like I can imagine like the world of Tick almost being like this 10 season like Walking Dead of like just other people in that universe, just in their stories and everything. So it's super cool that you have that huge imagination. And have you always had like this imagination when you were like a child, just like firing on all cylinders?
yes, yes. I am like one of those crazy, I dream in movies every night, like wild adventure, insanity. And I wake up every morning remembering everything. And I was one of those kids that had the crazy, like, I always had to be like on the playground. I was like, okay, now you say you're going to be a horse and I'm going to be this. And he is, Darth Vader. And like, this is a world where, I always had to like, I was the bossy kid that played on the playground.
Yeah.
And it was always a story and it was always a world. Yes, I was that kid. Uh, so the imagination never, it's been with me since the start, unfortunately, sometimes.
Yeah, I really relate to that. And yeah, I didn't get into filmmaking, but I did get into like videography, and once in a while I'll do
Oh
like
yeah.
music videos, and it's almost like unconsciously I start tapping into that mind when I was like a child, that big imagination, whether I was playing with toys or friends or whatever. And it comes like out of nowhere, like almost like I get hit by lightning, and the people I'm working with or the artists are like, whoa, where did that come from? Type of thing. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just like, but back in the day, I don't know. I didn't have many people around me like that. So I always felt like kind of like an alien. But now, like,
Oh,
older and just kind of embracing whatever that is.
that's
It's
all
such a
everyone's doing.
blessing.
We're just all playing make believe and then trying to share our ideas with other people in beautiful, wonderful ways, right? So
Yeah.
it's like you just want to be surrounded by people who want to play with you.
Yeah, yeah. And do you live in the city of Toronto as well? Or?
I recently just moved to Hamilton.
Oh, okay, cool, cool. Yeah, I lived
Yes,
there for a
yes.
bit for college as well, but
Oh, really?
yeah, I feel like sometimes I just keep meeting like a lot of creatives, and they've been like not always like living in this area, but maybe they come from like smaller towns and almost have like a similar
Ah.
story where they're need to gravitate towards other like-minded people. And like I feel like just around like this whole area, especially Hamilton as well, there's a
Hmm.
lot of films being made there too. And you kind
There's a
of,
ton.
yeah, gotta like go to these places to meet and create, like whatever your passions are.
Yeah, like I lived in Toronto for 20 years
Hmm.
and like I have still an amazing creative community there of friends and, people that I like to develop things with or, just work together. And moving here, I was like, ooh, moving far away, like from the home that I know, not far away, but,
Yeah.
an hour and so. And the community, there's a lot of filmmakers here. It's wild. A lot of horror filmmakers, which is kind of hilarious. Like I'm like, I can walk to like five different directors' houses that I know are working in this industry like fully. Like it's just a wild thing.
Yeah, that's amazing too. And you're no stranger to like just these different film festivals from like Blood in the Snow this week. We're
Mm.
actually going to try to get this episode up as fast as we can, so promote that. And but yeah, just kind of would you, for somebody who's not in the loop, how would you explain like the scene and community? Because I think it's really cool, and it's something I'm kind of new to in the past couple of years. But from Toronto After Dark, Blood in the Snow, there's another one that just kind of happened that I'm blanking on. Like, how important is that for you as like a filmmaker to kind of just share and mingle and just get your stuff out there?
Well, film festivals themselves are really huge. Like, I think all the programmers in like the Toronto festivals all know each other. I mean, Canada's really good for I mean, I should say more Eastern Canada is really good for genre festivals. Like we have Toronto After Dark, Blood in the Snow, Fantasia is one of the biggest genre festivals in the world. And like, and we also have like a really, I mean, in Toronto alone, it's like a wild horror community, whether it's, film or, journalism or um, music, all that stuff. We have like a pretty intense, pretty tight-knit community. So I think that's really helpful because there's just collaborators out the wazoo, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, and film festivals are absolutely massive when it comes to getting your films out. It's interesting because it's amazing to have it in your city, but I think the thing that's always helped me the most is to go to film festivals outside of the city, outside of the country, anywhere where you haven't been or where people don't know you. I mean, it's nice to have your home film festivals, obviously, because, it's like Blood in the Snow, Kelly, Carolyn, everybody who's working there. Um, but when you go outside your comfort zone and show your work to other people and meet other filmmakers and whatever, that's when you start to kind of like see what the possibilities are and what different things are out there and maybe grow as an artist in a way. And even, you're able to make connections with people that you never thought you would work with, maybe, and they're in like Spain or whatever.
Hmm.
like some of the coolest filmmakers I've ever met have been completely different countries. And just like randomly wander into a room and you're like, we're friends for this week. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's really wonderful.
Yeah, that's super cool and very important too. And I find these segments, I've noticed like a bunch of creatives themselves have been like gravitating to these and like listening to them, and even a lot of people starting up and like wanting to aspire to be a filmmaker. And I find sometimes like talking to them, they think they have to build like this giant 2 hour script and then sell it to Hollywood too. So it's very important, like
Yeah.
even just to let them know there's steps to this, and there is places and communities where you can put your your toes in the water basically and kind of move from there. And because I feel like some people they think they just gotta go from nothing to like Hollywood when they're starting, you know. And yeah, it's just amazing that there's these communities who do nurture like different scenes and people's ideas too, to grow and network and make those steps towards that direction as well.
Yeah, it's everything. I think it is, you're so right. And I think we were all fed this like 1950s, like, I just walked onto the set and gave the director my script, and now I'm a millionaire. And like, that's not a thing. If it ever was, it was like the 40s and it's never happened since.
Yeah.
Like it's just not. And the only way to do it is to build your community and build and just get better and keep working and meet people who are awesome and who you want to work with and keep those relationships going. And it's like building this weird family where you all just want to help each other out. And it's like a really, and I don't know if that is more Canadian than anything, although I do know lots of people in the States who have very similar experiences. It's just it's all about coming up with people and finding a little bit of a troop to support each other and make cool shit together, you know? Don't
True.
just hand your script to anybody, everybody. Don't do it.
Yeah,
Doesn't work
yeah.
like that.
Yeah, even like I can imagine like this probably happened to a bunch of people where they just make something really special and then they hand it like forward, and then they next thing you know like it's being made without them type of thing.
Oh God. Yeah, it's all gray area and nuance and working your way up, and there's no magic bullet, and there shouldn't be because nobody's amazing right out of the gate. Your
Hmm.
script probably sucks if it's your first script. Mine did. My first ever script was trash. And like you just work on it, you get better and you get notes. That's
Hmm.
what your whole life is gonna be, notes.
Yeah, I feel like yeah, there's a power in just like going out there and doing it. And yeah, I
Mhm.
relate to that doing like this podcast series as well. Like I don't ever want to listen to episode one ever again. And
Oh, it's the
it's
worst.
but like the best lesson I think is just a good mistake, you know? And if you're
Yeah.
like really about it, you're gonna keep going forward and learn from it and just adjust and everything.
Yeah, it's true. And I think there's after a certain amount of time passes, like I know my first short, there was like for years after I made it, I was like, oh my God, I can never watch it again. I want to rip my eyes out. And now I'll watch it and be like, oh,
Yeah.
I was learning. Like I've totally forgiven myself for not knowing what was going on back then because I realize now how hard it is to do that first thing, that first podcast, that first film, that first script, and how we're all going to kind of look back on it and be like, "Oh, you
Yeah.
young thing, what were you doing?" And
Yeah.
like that's good. That's good to realize where how much how hard, remember how hard it was and how scary it was and you can always use that to make your next thing better and forgive yourself
Yeah, most definitely too.
being crappy.
Yeah, it's also cool too, like even to think of those times too, and almost like just remember the spirit of why you're taking the step. Because I feel like the first step is like the hardest as well. It's just
Totally.
like because you haven't adapted all the skills and experience, and you're like, I got this idea, I want to do this, I love doing this, let's try it out, and just whatever happens, like even if it's like ends up being trash. I think that's like a success to me, you know, like just
Absolutely.
jumping in there and just doing that because like moments like that can change your whole fucking life.
Yeah, like making that jump, that's the accomplishment. Even if the first thing you ever do is like set it on fire trash. Like it's that belief in yourself to do that thing, the love for the thing that you want to do, and even just like the ability to put yourself out there that I think is the hardest thing when you know that you know nothing and acknowledging that maybe it's okay and you're going to fail maybe and you have to be okay with that because that's I mean really this whole industry is maybe you're going to fail and you're going to be okay with that. You got to be okay with it. If
Yeah.
somebody's going to tear you down and you have to be like cool, that's your opinion, bro. Like, whatever. Like, you have to be fine with, because, like, I've gotten some shit reviews that made me want to die. But, like, then a minute later, you're like, cool. You can't make everybody happy. And as long as you did the best you can do for that, and you're going to do the best you can do next time and try and be better every time, then you're being true to the art form. And critics gonna critic.
Yeah, for sure. And like just kind of like building that mental callus. I think it takes time of doing it and throwing your stuff out there too, because I've know some people who maybe they'll watch or like see different reviews or whatever, but they don't create stuff themselves. And they would like their first reaction would to go on like the message boards and like fight them or whatever. But I feel like all the pros or the people who've been like in the circuit doing it for a while, they just kind of like let go. And even though maybe it'll sting for a moment,
Oh, yeah.
even I had like a thing like a couple months ago. There was this one interview I did, and it's just probably like 100 comments, like all love, and then I just see this one where it just like took a dig personally at my style, and then
Oh my God.
I was just thinking about that for like only a couple minutes or whatever. I'm just like, oh, what the fuck, and then I thought of like the bigger picture of everything, and it's like that's part of putting your stuff out there and there's
Mhm.
I don't know humility to that but also like a lot of people who connect with it as well.
Yeah, and I think that's funny because like so many people I know and so many I mean artists have said before, filmmakers just you can have 500 amazing comments or reviews and then you have one shitty one and that's the only one you remember and that's the one that keeps you up at night. And you don't know if it's like some 12-year-old in his mother's basement. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like you don't know the context necessarily and we can't it's we kick our own puppies. We don't need other people to kick our puppies for us. You know what I mean? Like we that's a weird phrase that just came to mind.
Yeah.
Long ago somebody referenced that in terms of like being on a sports team. I don't know why that came to me. But you know what I mean? It's like we're already abusing ourselves and then uh we don't want to believe our best press, which is maybe like a strong instinct for an artist because we don't want to, if you believe your own press too much, you become a dick. But
Mhm.
I think the instinct is to think of the worst of ourselves and then wallow in it. And we have to like just drag ourselves out of it.
Yeah, all facts. And speaking of kicking puppies, perfect segue. In Bonded, you had your dog in it, right? Is that
Yes,
your dog?
Bucky. Yeah,
Oh, is
she's right here.
Bucky around? Oh yeah.
She sleeps in the chair beside me in the office while I work.
Oh,
Hi. I'm sorry,
even
did I wake you up? Thank you.
yeah, even when she appeared on camera, I was just like, oh.
She's the best one. She's the chillest little now actress in the world. She's annoyed
Hmm.
with me that I woke her up.
So how was Bucky on set? Did you have to do a little bit of training, or was she a natural, or what's
Bucky
the scoop? Yeah.
is so easy to direct because she just kind of does, she's very like, she does whatever you say. She's very treat motivated. So there was a lot of like hiding treats on Chance, our child actor, and like
Oh
giving
yeah.
it, he would like hold treats in his hand and she would like do stuff. But like she has like really bad separation anxiety. And I didn't have this budget to have a dog watcher on set. So every time I would leave her in the cabin, there's so many times where I was like, our sound designer was like, you can hear the dog barking in the background. And I was
Oh,
like, sorry.
yeah.
Just so there was like a picture of me carrying her around. Just like some of it, I was like just directing with a dog under my arm, just so she
Yeah.
wouldn't be barking.
She
But
just
just
wants
like she
more
was
screen
fine.
time.
She just wants to hang. Yeah, so
Yeah.
she was great on screen. It was a delight. I was like, oh, kids and dogs. What the fuck am I thinking? Oh, but it
Yeah.
worked out great. They were both awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear too, especially that it's I always like think about this too when I see a kid in a movie that just has like kind of like some fucked up narrative and stuff. And how was
Oh
what
yeah.
was the actor's name?
His name's Chance.
Chance. So was Chance having a
He's so
good
cool.
time getting covered in blood and kind of doing that thing? Or
He had the time of his life. It's the cutest. Like, uh, I I don't know how I keep ending up with child actors. Like, I've never been like kids. Let's hang out with kids all the time. But
yeah.
I keep working with child actors, and like they love it. Like he was like, all I want to do is be in a horror movie that takes place in a cabin in the woods. And I was like, dude, you're living the
Hey,
dream.
I got you,
And
little
like
bro.
yeah, he had the best time. He got to hang out with a dog. He got to be covered in blood. Like he was so thrilled when he was getting like his wounds put on him. Like he was like such a little trooper. He had the best time ever.
Yeah.
Like he just hung out and was like just had a great time.
Yeah, because yeah, you mentioned working with kids, and in Tick you had a young girl as well too. And I feel
Yeah.
like even like with horror, um, I think just people just sympathize with the innocence of kids being in these crazy situations too. So maybe if it's
Hmm.
conscious or not, like your brain going to, okay, what's scary now? Like probably connecting that in some certain way.
I think it's interesting. Yeah, I think I'm drawn to kids in a way because there's something that's really interesting about them. And like, okay, for if you look at animals, like if an animal dies in a movie, I cannot because
Hmm.
like animals are just so innocent and like all they're doing is their animal things. Like specifically dogs, that's the worst for me. Like every time there's a dog in a horror movie, I'm like, this dog better not die. But if it's a kid, especially a kid that's around the age of like 9 or 10, where you're like, they're becoming a person at this point in this
Hmm.
really interesting way. And I think there's this almost kind of like liminal possibility with them where it's like, could they be the evil thing? Could they be, what are they bringing to this story in the sense of like, what does it mean to be a child in this environment or whether, you know what I mean? Like, I actually have a script that I'm working on right now where the child is both the protagonist and possibly the villain.
Oh, cool.
And it's just something that I think is really, really fascinating to see that from also see that from the perspective of a child. Like for instance, Tick, um, Ava played our main character, and it was all from her perspective. And it was like she was seen as the villain, even though she was this monster. We want to see her where she wants to, what she's trying to do to save this her sister and change the world in a certain way, right? And it's
Mhm.
with Chance's character, it's a little more like, is something wrong with this kid, or is he fine, or is he being influenced by an outside evil in a way? And kids at that age have this like, who are you going to be when you grow up?
Mm.
And maybe
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
bad guy, maybe it's a good guy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And maybe it sounds like this is like the crossroads for whatever that character is to make that decision.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, and I think maybe I've subconsciously chosen this like weird like age where I'm like, ooh, this is
Yeah.
when you could be evil.
Yeah.
Um, thank you for making me realize that.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah. So what happened at 10, Ashley?
Yeah, my God.
Yes, I'm
I
just kidding.
obviously changed into a demon. There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah. But
Figured it
yeah,
out.
even I think that's very cool to take that approach to even with having the perspective of them, even if they are the villain or whatever, because as a viewer, I notice while watching Tick, you feel sympathy for the girl, even though maybe in this world, the people trying to capture her are doing the good for the greater mankind or whatever. You just start cheering for the bad guy. And I always call that the devil's rejects. Like if you ever watch
Oh
that
yeah.
movie, it's just like at the beginning you're like, oh, these people are pieces of shit, and then like a half hour in you're just like kind of like fall in love with these murderers, and you're on the cops become the bad guys all of a sudden and in your
I love
brain.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really cool approach.
I love that gray area. I love, yeah. It's funny because like when I talk about Tick, because I do have like a feature screenplay for that I finished and started shopping around like a minute before the pandemic. And it's about a pandemic. So that's on the shelf for a little bit. But there is such a greater world, and there is so much of that in there of like, are these people doing this for the greater good? Like, is this, it's, there's like hints of, and I always think about the girl with the gifts, the girl with all the gifts.
Hmm.
Do you remember have you seen that one?
It sounds familiar. I don't think I've watched this
Oh
one
my
though.
God. Well, I don't want to, I'm not going to spoil this. You watch it immediately. The ending is chef's kiss, totally exactly what we're talking about.
Okay,
So good.
cool, cool. I'm gonna have to
Watch
write
it
that down.
yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'm stealing that. Watch it yesterday.
Yeah,
That's when you
you're not
need to
gonna
see.
be mad.
Okay, cool, cool. Yeah, yeah, that's a good recommendation. I'm definitely gonna check that out as well. Um, Another thing I loved was like watching a few of your music videos that you posted, especially the Creepshow one.
Oh man.
I watched that yesterday, and then as I was about to connect to you, and I was just kind of like killing times, I'm like I clicked on it again because I just loved the song and the visuals. It was just
It's such a good
beautiful and like
song.
sad and everything,
Oh,
and
thank you.
even I feel like I need to dive into more of their work because a bunch of my friends they're in the punk scene and I know they played with them. I seen little clips and I'm like, that
Oh
band's
yeah.
cool, but I think this one just like seeing your music video, I'm like, okay, I gotta like really like just like get them on my Spotify now and everything.
Oh, they're so good. And like they've been around for a million years and they're like, how to describe it? Sort of psychobilly with like pop punk side. Like they've been in the industry for 1,000 years, and I think Kenda brings this like really beautiful, like that was her kind of like song.
Yeah.
That was really, really personal to her. So we wanted to make it something really beautiful and soft and something that speaks to people in an interesting way. So hopefully we did that.
Yeah, most definitely was amazing. And I kind of want to know like your approach towards music videos. Do you think of it like conceptually, like almost as a story as you're making a film, or does it just depend on the piece and the song and everything?
It really depends on the song. Like I've like pitched a ton of music videos, but from back in the day when they did Much Fact, when you were constantly trying to get funding, which they don't have anymore, which is sad for
Yeah,
music
big tier
videos.
for
But
everybody.
yeah, so I wrote a whole lot, and the ones that ended up always getting made were the ones that had kind of a story behind it in an interesting way because like there was a lot where it was just like and then they're on a motorcycle and now like classic music video flashing lights and
Yeah, yeah.
for some reason the ones that stuck with people and that ended up getting made were the ones like you know had a little bit of a story behind it. I know the one with the creep show had an existing story that we kind of pulled out through like we found this really beautiful our makeup artist her family owned this property and we were just like oh my god we have to run around and put Ken in a dress and we just found these really beautiful moments and we had the concept of reversing time and that's kind of where everything came out of it and it was because of her story that she wrote this song about
Mm.
and so everything kind of came through like the Kelly Loader stuff that I'd been doing. All of that was based on there's like feeling of a story behind these songs. And I think, yeah, it's just happened that the more narrative versions of music videos that I've done have been the ones that just got made. And I mean, it's nice because I get to make a little short film almost, just no dialogue for the most part.
Hell yeah. Yeah, and I just think that's a sign like storytelling is your superpower, Ashley, and
I hope
it's cool
so.
that you get to like continue to share it with everybody and Yeah, before we go, can you let us know, like, so you're at Blood in the Snow this week.
Mhm.
What's your schedule like around it? I know you got these shorts. Have they played yet? I know it's already going. Are they going to play or
The episodes of Creepy Bits?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So they are Creepy Bits as a whole is playing on the Friday at 7 p.m. At Blood in the Snow, which is gonna be really exciting because we're doing episodes 1 to 9. My episode Last Sonata didn't it went over time for the slot that they had, so they pushed it into the Bits and Bytes block, which is a block of web series episodes that's going to be screening on the Wednesday. So I have Wednesday at 7 p.m. Last Sonata is screening, and then Friday at 7 p.m. All of Creepy Bits, including my episode Bonded, is screening. Um, yeah, and we're doing a little talk midday for a panel.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
definitely gonna get this episode out before Friday. It's just so people if they're around the area can go check it out. And yeah, I loved Last Sonata too. I kind of love the ending too. I don't want to spoil it, but just kind of how things unfolded and stuff. I'm like, that's super cool. Like
Oh,
with
I'm
all the
glad.
nature. Yeah, yeah. If I say more, it's just gonna give it away. But yeah, I guess like as a final question, we already touched on a few things, and like I mentioned, some creatives himself listen in on these segments. But would you have any general advice for somebody who's got these big ideas and maybe want to take the first step into making a film?
I think, I mean, everyone just always says just do it. And that's the information, that's the suggestions I got when I was starting. And wow, is it ever true? Just do it. Expect it to be crap. It's going to be crap. You're going to think it's crap. Somebody else, you're going to think it's amazing. You're going to
Yeah.
give it to somebody. They're going to tell you it's crap, or they're going to tell you, hey, this is how you're going to make it better. And, you know, get as many people as you can to read it and take the notes that you really think hard about the notes. And don't give yourself a night, cry about it, and then go back to it with fresh eyes the next day and then look at it and you'll realize what you actually need to change and you'll see it for what it is and you'll make it better and you'll make it better every time. But you can't make the second step until you make the first step and just don't be precious. Let it happen. That's all.
Yeah. Go with the
That's the
flow.
best way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I love it. Bruce Lee, be water.
Be water. Yes, exactly. I gotta live my life that way.
Yeah.
Trying.
Well, you're killing it, Ashley. I'm a new fan, and yeah, it's depending on my schedule. I might be there on the Friday, so if I'm there, I'm gonna look for you, and
Yes.
yeah,
It would be
hopefully get
lovely
to
to see
meet you
you.
in person and everything. But yeah, I still gotta like move some stuff around with my work life. That's boring. I don't want to talk about that on the microphone. But again, thank you so much for your time, and yeah, I'm sure I'll
Thank
catch you down the
you.
road around another project as well.
Please, well, I hope it's Friday first. And
Hmm.
it was really nice to meet you. And if I see you Friday, uh, I hope it'll probably be shorter than you think I am, based on
Yeah.
always Zoom.
Yeah, I'm like
Um,
looking up. Where is she? It's just like right here.
my head's bigger. Who knows? Um,
Uh,
yeah, so nice to thank you for having me on.
yeah, anytime, Ashley. Much love. I'll talk to you soon, eh? Cheers. Take care. Hope you guys enjoyed that episode with Ashley. Unfortunately, I didn't get to make the festival. Would have been cool to meet her in person. And yeah, it's just been a crazy week. Even I wanted to get this episode out earlier, but I just had to roll with the punches of some things. But what a great talk. And if there's anything that we talked about that you are interested in, check out ashleawessel.com. We're going to have the link in the description of this episode. You can see a bunch of her shorts, her photography work, music videos, all that cool shit, and we'll keep you in the loop of when you can watch her brand new shorts from Creepy Bits 2 that just played at the Blood in the Snow Festival this week. And like always, we can't go without thanking all you lovely legends on the Patreon page. And also, I want to mention this episode specifically was the quickest response I had from somebody subscribed to the Patreon right when I posted it. Our good friend, longtime supporter, and even contributor to the show, Ola Mazuka, hit me up minutes after she got this notification saying she worked with Ashley in the past. And Ashley did the photography for her very first Exclaim cover that she ever landed for a client. Around Ola being somebody I shout out at the end of every episode, she has a legacy in the PR world and also was such a contributor near the beginning stages of this show specifically, and we love and thank her so much. And also, another big thanks to our homeboy, Mike Carniello of the Testing with Mike YouTube channel. If you're into electronics, technology, how they work, and most importantly, how to fix them, check out Testing with Mike on YouTube. Another huge thanks to the lovely Amanda McKnight. Amanda also has her very own YouTube and Twitch channel. Search for Amanda McKnight, soak in some good vibes as you celebrate comic books, movies, video games, and all things nerdy. That's Amanda McKnight on YouTube. And more thanks to the wonderful Jenny Potter, the legend Devin McBride, back-to-back double impact Allens, the number one gent Alan Kent, and bigwig Alan Briggs, our homeboy Josh Davis, aka Jay Dizzle, and last but not least, Francis Coffer, aka my mom. If you want to shout out at the end of every episode and also get these episodes early, raw, uncut, right when I'm done the Zoom call, I just post them, you can go to patreon.com/thecreative imbalance. And beyond having my forever thanks, you can just go to bed at night and sleep soundly, knowing you're a badass motherfucker who supports raw, uncut, independent media. And nobody can take that away from you. You hear me? We got some amazing episodes coming around the corner. Got a real big one locked in. And also, I haven't told you guys yet, but we're nominated for 2 Canadian Podcast Awards. Holy shit, I might make a video about that real soon. And whether we win or lose, it's a complete honor. You know, a lot of you guys been here on the long journey, and it's a beautiful thing to just get some recognition, you know. Yeah, it's a lot of fucking work doing this. And yeah, but we'll talk about that soon. Love ya and catch you next time. Mwah.